Hey, deserving listeners, 90 Day Fiancé, let's watch. My name is Dr. Kirk Honda. I'm a therapist and professor. As I always say, everything I say in these reaction videos is completely speculative based on very little information. Let's watch.
You guys got married.
Yeah.
Then you were planning a wedding party. And now you're talking about divorce.
Yeah.
Kind of confusing a little bit, I guess, right?
Yeah. You are here because you want the relationship to work, correct?
Yeah.
What is that?
Right, good. So a very important question that I teach my trainees to ask in various different ways is, one, what are you here to do in couples therapy? And two, do you want to be in this relationship? Never assume that just because a couple comes into the office, they want to work on their relationship. Because for some people, like Evelin, they're ambivalent about it. To some people that come into my office, they're done, and they've been done for 10 years, and they're only coming to couples therapy as a way to please the other person, or to say, look, I tried. I went to couples therapy, it didn't work, now I'm really done. Or they want to come to couples therapy to end the relationship, and they want a therapist to help them to talk about the end. So it's very important. And I hope, now they're also doing it outside so they don't have to wear masks, which I understand, because doing therapy with masks it's pretty awful. But now they're on TV, so HIPAA and I don't know what in Ecuador the confidentiality practices are like. But in the United States, if you weren't on a reality TV show, you couldn't do this sort of session because people could watch it, or at least it would be uncustomary, and there'd be a lot of risk to confidentiality, right? Because if they're in a public place, people could just walk by and sit down next to them in session. So, but they're on a reality TV show anyway, so they're already signing a bunch of things, I'm guessing, regarding their waiving to confidentiality. But okay, so Evelin just says, I don't know if I'm here to work on this relationship. Let's see how they work this out. Now, I will say that a lot of therapists will make a mistake of, oh, it's my job to convince the Evelins of the world to want to work on the relationship because that's my job as a couples therapist. No, it is never your job as a couples therapist to convince someone to work on a relationship. Your job is to help someone clarify for themselves what they want, and then to understand that and have that communicated. And then, so let's say that, so if I was there, I'd immediately, because the Evelins of the world, I need to work on right away, because Corey wants to work on their relationship. We can't work on the relationship until I, one, understand what Evelin wants, and two, that Evelin actually wants to work in therapy. So I would turn to Evelin and I'd be like, okay, tell me more. How are you feeling? Sometimes I have people rate on 1 to 100%, like how dedicated they are to the relationship. Then so let's say, I say, give me a percentage. Let's say Evelin says, I'm 30%. And I'd say, okay, do you want to raise that? Do you want to raise that percentage? Because some people would be like, not really, I'm sort of done. But let's say so if Evelin said, no, I'm not interested in raising that, then I might say, are you interested in exploring ways so that you can be motivated to raise it? You know what I mean? Like, are there because sometimes people are like, well, I'd be motivated to raise it if I saw this change, or, that sort of thing. So if there wasn't anything like that, and again, let's just say I was like, yeah, I'm not really interested, I'd be like, okay, so Corey, you want to work on the relationship and you're in it to win it. Evelin, you're 30% and you're not really interested in raising that percentage. I know, Corey, what you want to do. Evelin, what do you want me to help you with? How can I help you? And that can be a long conversation sometimes, because the Evelins of the world sometimes don't really know what they want. They just kind of showed up to couples therapy, and they haven't really sat down and thought, well, okay, given that I'm 30%, I don't want to raise it. Why am I here? Now, let's say Evelin says, I'm open to raising it. I'd be like, okay, what can we do here in therapy to help you raise it? Because until we raise that percentage, it's going to be hard to do anything, because when we get into communication and attachment, reactivity, both people have to be pretty motivated to be like, yeah, I want to do this hard work for the benefit of our relationship. If you have someone at 30%, it's going to be hard to motivate that. So let's see how they talk about it.
Have to put any effort anymore, and the relationship started going down. So we had a break, and during that break, he was hanging out with some whore. I'm sorry, my language. And since I found out what he did, I just have no trust. And I don't want to be in a relationship that is that way.
Okay, great. Evelyn's telling her story. If I were the therapist, I'd be like, okay, I hear you. Do you want to work on this relationship? And a lot of times therapists will skip this step, and it's a big problem. There's a number of reasons. One, there's not a lot of education about this important step of like, well, okay, given where you're at, what do you want my help? Do you want my help? Do you want to work on it? Where are we? What are we doing here exactly? Which is up to you. Now, I might not be able to help you with whatever goal you have, but we have to establish like what you're here to do. It's sort of be like you walk into a dentist's office and you're just like, yeah, I don't know. I feel kind of like maybe something's wrong with my mouth. I don't know. And then the dentist just starts drilling into your tooth without knowing what's wrong. That's what a lot of therapy can look like, because therapists aren't taught. The other reason is that a lot of therapists are so insecure about their service and being useful that they don't want to ask the question, am I going to be helpful to you or not? They just want to forge ahead. Like, let me show you how helpful I can be, without like stopping and slowing down and being like, well, okay, how can I help you? And the other thing, the wonderful aspect of having that approach to people as therapists is it makes it clear that the clients are supposed to drive the bus. You as a therapist are not supposed to drive the bus. They drive the bus. You guide them as they drive the bus. Meaning that a lot of clients come into therapy just being like, I don't know why I'm here. Okay, fine, do your therapy thing. And it's like, no, that's, again, someone doesn't come into a dentist office, sit down in the waiting room and go, okay, fine, do your thing. And then the dentist comes out, well, can you sit in the chair? No, I'm not going to do it. Well, is there something I can help you with? Well, I don't know. The dentist would be like, leave. Unless you have a complaint that you want me to investigate and help you with, get out of my office. You're just wasting space. And a lot of people come into therapy like that. And that's fine. But we have to clarify with clients that that's not how therapy works. You ask me for help. I don't impose help on you. So let's see what happens here.
Everything that's happened, but it's like she's not giving me that opportunity. I feel like she's not able to forgive and forget anything.
I never forget anybody. I don't. I'm the kind of person that if somebody does me wrong, I'm like, forget about it, and I never trust again, and I cut ties immediately.
Okay.
All right, so there's nothing wrong. If I was a therapist, I'd be like, okay, Evelyn, do you want me to help you to change that? Because if we change that, that might actually help your relationship. But I don't know if you want me to change that in you. Or do you want me to help the two of you recover from what happened? I would be very clear, because I'm really not sure if Evelyn wants any kind of help or wants to improve the relationship. So let's see what the therapist says. There's a risk here, though, that the therapist is going to jump in and try to change Evelyn and be like, Evelyn, you're not being flexible, when they have not established, at least from this edit, who knows what they edited out, that Evelyn wants to be in the relationship and wants the therapist help. It's a very common thing for couples therapists to immediately determine who's to blame, and through countertransference reasons, maybe accurate assessment reasons, and then just say, you need to change, without understanding what's underneath all of it. So let's watch what happened there.
So let me explain something to you. This is just like a mini class, right? So there are a lot of couples who go through infidelity issues, right? So at the end of the day, most of those couples are able to pass through that and have an even better relationship.
Okay, that's good. She's using psychoed, which is a good thing to say to people, and it's something I always say, which is, because it's not frequently talked. You talk about infidelity in pop culture on the internet, it's like, oh, red flag, run, break up. The fact is that a lot of couples, if not a majority or a sizable percentage, suffer from infidelity at some point in their lifespan. And most people consider the relationship important enough to try to recover. A lot of couples don't recover well because they don't seek out a therapist who specializes in that. but I've worked with a lot of people who recover from infidelity. The reason why we need to tell people this is because society will tell you something completely opposite, and couples that are going through infidelity recovery will shame themselves. Like, well, of course, I'd be stupid if I'm a terrible person if I stay in this relationship, right? You know, there's that assumption when it's like, no, I mean, if you want to leave, you can leave, but if you want to stay, you know, there's a way through it. And as a therapist says, you can be stronger afterwards because of it. But again, I'm still waiting for the therapist to go to Evelin and say, do you want me to help you? Because, you know, there's some issues here.
When you're both committed and you both are willing and wanting to do the work. Evelin, I totally get where you're coming from, but I'm also kind of curious about, it seems to me like you're holding a lot of anger and resentment, right? But while you are holding that, you cannot move forward with.
All right, so I don't know where this is going, but the beginning I was on board with. She's like, you know, we can't really move forward until Evelin, you clarify or, you know, establish your commitment to the relationship. Yeah, absolutely. But the approach as a therapist should be like, what do you want, Evelin? Do you want me to try to find a way to increase that commitment? You know, it's never our job to make someone be in a relationship or to make them increase their commitment to a relationship. No, absolutely not. So the beginning of that was like, you know, we can't really move forward, Evelin, until we figure that out. But then she's like, until you let go of your anger, you're not going to be able to progress in your commitment to the relationship. Although that's kind of true. Does Evelin want to work on that? I mean, it's a critical question, because let's say that the therapist says that. It's like, you know, if you got to let go of your anger, and let's say that Evelin's like, okay, I'm feeling pressure right here. I have two people wanting me to let go of my anger. Okay, fine, I'll let go of my anger. But does Evelin ever want to be married to Corey? That's just like this fundamental question. Does she want to marry anyone? So let's see if they can get to that.
Their relationship. So why can't you let go of this?
To me, I just feel like I have been very disrespected, and I don't like feeling stupid, and I feel like I'm stupid forever trusting him.
Right. So I'm reminded now of a schema that I think is present with Evelin that's strong and similar to Angela, which is a humiliation schema of frequent, ongoing, chronic, severe humiliation experiences in one's past can create this schema of, I am a fool. There's something inherently humiliating about who I am. And there are various different ways of coping with that. One of which, by the way, is just to act in a humiliating way, just like, screw it, I give up. I'm a ridiculous person, and I'll just give in to the notion that I am a fool. Another way is to do everything in your power to avoid being made a fool of, including sacrificing other needs and relationships in the effort of like, I'm never going to be made a fool of, ever, 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 ever. With Angela, what she does is she just talks over and bullies and yells and, you know, takes her top off, incidentally making a fool of herself, right? And for Evelin, it is, I will never be vulnerable. I will never not have the upper hand in a relationship. I will always have the upper hand. I will always be the one to break up. I will always be the one saying no. And I will always be the one in control, because therefore I will never be made a fool of. And when they broke up and he was with someone else, there's something that I think tweaks her traumas around that of like, you made a fool of me by dating someone after I broke up with you. You know, because if I wasn't being made a fool of, you would have pined away for me for years. That would have been the only thing that could have saved me from making me feel like a fool. And I think that's what's really driving a lot of her anger and a lot of her rejection of him. Now, again, there's another possibility that she doesn't really like him because from the beginning she's like, one, I don't want to get married. Two, I don't want to be married to you.
You lied to me for months. You didn't just hide the truth, you lie. You built a different story that wasn't true. You let me get back into a relationship based on lies.
Yeah, I mean, she's right about that. He did lie repeatedly. And again, we're starting to see her crying again, which I think indicates this really deep, just below the surface, intense, just below the surface wound that is, constantly causing her a lot of fear and anxiety. I don't know exactly what that is, but I think she's someone who suffers quite a bit, and her way of coping with that is to act like she's above everything and everything's fine, because she's trying to deny this part of herself.
Evelyn, what are those tears about?
I'm just upset.
Why are you upset?
I never cry because I'm sad. I cry because I'm upset.
So good. It's a wonderful, especially first session thing for a therapist to do. You see someone crying, you're just like, oh, what are those tears about? Tell me more. It looks like you're having an emotion. Well, what are you feeling? And it's a great way of introducing the concept of emotions and emotional conversations and emotional expression, and making room, making space, not being afraid of someone's tears. And let's rewind what Evelyn said, because I think this is critical.
What are those tears about?
I'm just upset.
Why are you upset?
I never cry because I'm sad. I cry because I'm upset.
Interesting. So I'm upset. I'm not sad. Don't ever think I'm sad. I never cry because I'm sad. I'm sad because I'm upset. Now, I think there's two possibilities here. One is that by upset, she means angry. And that when she knows when she feels very sad, and she doesn't cry when she's very sad. And she's like, I'm just kind of tense right now, and I cry when I'm tense. Okay. Some people do that. Or she is so afraid of being made a fool of, so afraid of humiliation, so afraid of vulnerability, so afraid of losing control, power, that she denies outwardly and inwardly that she's vulnerable and that she can be hurt. She's like, okay, fine, I'm crying, but I'm not sad. Don't ever think I'm sad, because I'm a rock. I'm strong. I'm just upset. I'm upset. And I would see this in a lot of people to varying degrees. We shame so many people for being quote unquote vulnerable and sad, and there's so much associations with weakness and shame. I've talked about this before, how I will have students who are therapists. They're training to become therapists. These people supposedly are emotionally aware and non-shaming of emotions. And in class, they'll start crying about something and they'll apologize. Oh my God, I'm so sorry, I'm crying. And I'm like, if you can't cry with a bunch of therapists, where can you cry? It's okay to cry. It's okay to have an emotion. It's okay to be triggered. It's okay. It's what you do with that. And certainly crying isn't harmful to anybody. But boy, do we shame people for crying. There's something wrong with you. You're manipulative, all this kind of stuff. So, but it's interesting. It's just very consistent with her presentation that she's like, I'm not sad. I'm upset. There's a big difference. Don't even think that I'm affected by this. I'm upset. And let's see what she says here.
When we haven't processed deep things that have been very, very hurtful, that's what happens. So your reaction right now is very normal. Tell Corey why you're upset.
Great. This is one of the best sessions we've seen, best therapists we've seen. I mean, we've seen, I don't know, like a dozen therapists. There was that one guy with Mike and Natalie that I liked. And there were a lot of other therapists that I was like, I mean, there's some where I just couldn't really tell. Like I remember Darcy's therapist, I remember thinking, I can't really tell. But with some of the therapists, I'm like, what are you doing? Like that one guy who had the man up thing behind him. I mean, what was up with that? Anyway, so this therapist, yeah, it's great. She's normal. I say it's totally normal. When we get into some issues, it's normal to be triggered, normal to cry, normal to be upset. Can you tell Corey why you're feeling this way? Great. This is something I teach my trainees all the time. Like, when in doubt, direct someone to, in a functional, healthy way, communicate to the other person. Because it's possible that Evelyn has never said, you make me sad because, or you make me upset because, without yelling or breaking up. Let's see what happens.
What exactly happened that makes you so hurt? You're doing great.
So, subtle thing here that the therapist did. Evelyn said, I'm not hurt. I'm not sad. I'm upset. The therapist is saying, can you communicate to Corey what it was that made you so hurt? So the therapist, I don't know if this is conscious, is inserting the word hurt, even though Evelin basically denied that earlier. And it's a way of just subtly putting this word out there, because it is extremely likely that that's what's happening for Evelin right now, is that she is hurt. Now, you could say, is she justified to feel hurt? Yeah, but it doesn't matter. You know, you got to start from where she's at. All right, well, I want to thank everyone who has liked this video or other videos of mine, subscribed, hit the bell, commented below. It's super cool of you. It genuinely makes me feel better when I see that people like a video that I made. It really is, you know, something I'm interested in. It's like, do you like this video? Do you not like the video? And so, you know, I'm always curious. And so thanks if you've done those things. And everyone out there, please take care of yourself, because you deserve it. You really, really do.